Hello, this presentation is by the Resuscitation Service for the benefit of new medical staff joining NHS Forth Valley from August 2020. My name is Dave Williams, I am the Lead Resuscitation Officer. I offer you a warm welcome and hope to meet you soon on your resus training. So there may be some differences to the guidelines and policies and procedures where you've worked previously. So this presentation aims to introduce you to a bit of information about the emergency calls that take place, the various resuscitation teams that we have available, specific guidelines relevant to your resuscitation response due to COVID-19, some familiarisation with the resuscitation equipment, and of course the fact that you'll need practical training, so a bit of information on that as well. So we audit all of the crash calls that take place within Forth Valley Royal Hospital. In 2019, as you can see from this graphic, most of the calls were for the adult resuscitation team, and most of their calls were not actual cardiac arrest, but medical emergencies. So this chart shows the adult in-hospital cardiac arrest survival since 2016. As you can see, we tend to see about 60 cardiac arrests a year. The dark blue in each column represents those patients that were discharged alive, either to a community hospital site, their own home, or to a tertiary centre. The medium blue represents those patients who survived the cardiac arrest but subsequently died in hospital, and the light blue is those patients who did not survive the cardiac arrest. The red line represents the percentage of survival to discharge of those groups of patients each year. On average, the UK survival to discharge is around 21%, but it's always improving. Here in Forth Valley, when we saw survival of around 23% in 2018, that was when we saw a larger number of shockable cardiac arrests. And that just re-emphasises the importance of early defibrillation. Evidence shows that perhaps a third of all in-hospital cardiac arrests could be prevented through earlier recognition of deterioration and more timely escalation to high levels of care. In addition, some patients are obviously coming to the end of their life, and therefore a DNA CPR decision is more appropriate rather than an unsuccessful resuscitation attempt, which would lead to an undignified death. In Forth Valley, we are soon to roll out the NEWS 2 observation system. We encourage appropriately timed DNA CPR decisions that are not delayed or left for other teams to address. We were also one of the early implementer sites in Scotland for the RESPECT document, and the pilot is still ongoing with the use of that and making it in an electronic form that is shared across various groups. We encourage meaningful conversations with patients about their goals of care in the context of realistic medicine. On discovering a collapsed patient, the 2222 number is used within the Forth Valley Royal Hospital building, irrespective of whether the incident is in a clinical or a non-clinical area, such as an office, corridor, or the restaurant. There may not always be a need for a 222 call if relevant clinical staff are already in attendance. For example, it is uncommon for the adult resource team to be summoned to the emergency department or the ITU. But it's not unheard of. So if you are a member of any one of the various emergency teams, you are expected to respond to an incident anywhere within the Forth Valley Royal Hospital building without delay. So looking at our non-acute community hospital facilities, you would have to contact 999 to summon an emergency ambulance in the event of finding somebody collapsed, 9 for the outside line, and 999 to make the call. And that's also the case if you find somebody collapsed in the grounds of Forth Valley Royal Hospital, such as the woods, car parks, or near the Maggie's Centre. When you dial 2222 or ask somebody else to do so on your behalf, it is important to specify which team you need. You don't need to give clinical information to switchboard about the nature of the emergency. You don't need to say whether or not it is a cardiac arrest or medical emergency, and please don't use the word peri-arrest. But what you do need to do is specify who you actually need. For example, if it is an adult who is collapsed, if they're in cardiac arrest or in need of urgent medical attention, you simply ask for the adult emergency team. Likewise, if it's a child in that situation. We have had scenarios in the past where a child was unwell due to a seizure, but it was never specified that it was a child. They used the word peri-arrest, asked for the peri-arrest team to attend, which doesn't exist, so switchboard activated the adult resource team, because they're the one that is most commonly dealing with incidents in that specific area. Thankfully, there was no harm done. So what we are asking you to do is just be clear with which team you need. As you can see from the poster, we have an adult team, paediatric team, neonatal team, and an obstetric team. So the adult and paediatric teams are there to deal with sudden deterioration, cardiac arrests in those groups of patients. The neonatal team is there to ensure that a baby is breathing sufficiently on transition at birth. And the obstetric team is there for obstetric emergencies. And of course, those teams could be asked to respond to anywhere within the Forth Valley Royal Hospital building. In addition, other teams are also available via 2222. Whilst we're not a trauma centre, there is a need for the emergency department to muster clinical staff in the event of a trauma emergency, such as if an ambulance has been diverted to its local ED or a patient self-presents with a traumatic injury. Also, the massive hemorrhage protocol is activated via 2222. Please be aware this does not activate a team. It informs the lab in order for them to produce the blood, and also activates the porter in order for them to transport that blood. So if you have a patient on a ward setting who is unwell and bleeding profusely, you need to activate the relevant emergency team. For example, if you have a patient bleeding on an adult ward, it's the massive hemorrhage protocol that is activated, and also send for the adult resource team. In addition, we have a Category 1 caesarean section response, which allows the obstetric and the neonatal teams to be activated simultaneously to avoid any delay. Now, on the rare occasion that a maternal cardiac arrest occurs, you need to ask for the adult resource team and the Category 1 caesarean section team in the same phone call. The adult team's role is to lead the cardiac arrest management, the obstetric team's job is to do that caesarean section, and the neonatal team is to ensure that baby is breathing on arrival. It's important that everybody works together. As I said, that is a very rare scenario. So just to summarise this section, please be clear as to which team you need in an emergency. Avoid terms such as cardiac arrest or peri-arrest. That just delays you specifying which team you really need. If you have a patient who is collapsed who is an adult, just ask for the adult resource team. You don't need to describe any more information to switchboard. Just remember to also give a precise location of the emergency, and they will activate that adult resource team to come and respond to you. So here's some key information for the benefit of those of you that will be carrying pages. The teams cover the entire site, so even if you are asked to attend an area that you're not familiar with, please respond promptly. If, however, you are unclear as to where it is you need to go, call 2222 to clarify. Please hand your pager over to the next person directly at the shift changeover. Don't leave the pager in an office or handover room for somebody else to pick up. Replacement batteries are obtained from switchboard so that you don't break the back of the cover trying to replace them. Pagers are tested daily by switchboard, and you'll be asked to respond to confirm that you received the test call. If the pager does fail to activate in an emergency, following that event, please complete an incident form to let us know so we can look into it. And specifically, the adult resource team has a huddle where they delegate their roles at 8:30 in the morning and 8:30 at night in CAU. In the aftermath of a cardiac arrest, it is important for the resource team and the ward staff to join together for a hot debrief. In addition to documenting this situation in the patient's medical notes, please ensure that a Moses form is completed. That's specifically the case for the adult and paediatric resource teams, and that is available via StaffNet. And also remember to replenish any personal protective equipment that you have used. So we're now going to look at the COVID-19 resuscitation guideline for NHS Forth Valley. So the modified guidelines apply to all 2222 calls on the Forth Valley Royal Hospital site. They've been created with reference to public health guidelines. There are key roles for initial responders, ward staff, medical staff working in those clinical areas, as well as secondary responders, which is the resource teams that are responding to the 2222 call. As a general rule, please don't take crash trolleys into isolation rooms, but focus on taking the defib and the pads in there to provide that initial response. So you should already be wearing your standard PPE when dealing with direct patient care. If you find a collapsed patient, typically we would do a look, listen and feel from close quarters to assess for signs of life. However, what we need you to do now is different. So in order to confirm cardiac arrest, do not place your ear cheek close to the airway to feel or hear for breathing, but do a pulse check at arm's length and observe the chest for normal breathing for up to 10 seconds without getting too close to the patient. First responders, which means ward staff, are expected to make that 2222 call before ensuring that the patient has a fluid resistance face mask on their face to reduce the risk of any droplets becoming aerosol. Do not manipulate the airway or insert adjuncts at this stage. Do not use mouth-to-mouth or pocket masks, but focus on the use of the defibrillator. So take that into the room first, following which you can provide compression-only CPR if you are wearing the standard PPE. Secondary responders refers to those members of the resuscitation teams that have pre-allocated specific roles. Manual ventilations can only be performed once PPE for aerosol generating procedures is worn by all those who need to be present. We prioritise airway management using the iGel and a viral filter. Because the anaesthetist isn't part of the adult or paediatric resource teams, it's important to ensure they are en route to assist in cardiac arrest, and they can be contacted via the Wi-Fi phone or, if you don't know the number, via switchboard. You need to restrict access into the room for those who do not need to be present. All of this information and more is available on our intranet page, and I encourage everybody to read it. So, moving on to look at resuscitation equipment. Crash trolleys with a red folder contain equipment for both paediatric and adult patient resuscitation, whereas those with a blue folder are for adult areas only. The crash trolleys have a tamper-evident seal, and they're opened by pushing down on the blue handle to break the seal to access the drawers. Please do not be tempted to open the crash trolleys for routine tasks such as cannulation or venipuncture. Please only use that equipment for emergency situations. The folders contain more clinical information, clinical guidelines and instructions, and a lot of the things that we've covered in this presentation today. In addition, you can also find a list of where your nearest pacing defib is, as well as how to obtain a mechanical CPR device. In Forth Valley, we use the Lucas device. The LifePak 20 is the standard defib that we use across Forth Valley Royal Hospital. The energy levels for the first, second, third and any subsequent shocks are 200, 300 and 360 joules. In AED mode, which is with the main door closed on the front panel, when you turn the machine on, it can be used in adults and children that are 25 kilos in body weight and above. Follow the voice prompts. The energy levels are self-escalated. You won't be able to manipulate them and you don't need to. Do not attempt chest compressions whilst the AED is charging. It will detect the motion artifact and it will disarm. If your role expects you to use the defib in manual mode, or you are somebody that would need to use paediatric defibrillation at 4 joules per kilo, please visit our training centre for familiarisation. The energy levels have to be escalated manually by the user, so it's important that you are familiar with that machine. If you are unsure, always use it in AED mode. Trust the instructions that the machine gives you and follow them promptly. We know that resuscitation skills often fade within 6 months of initial training, and the Resuscitation Council UK recommends an annual update of your skills. That's even the case if you've done one of their ALS courses within the last 4 years. We have adult and paediatric resource skills updates available on our intranet page, focusing on how to make a 2222 call correctly, how to use the defib safely, and how to provide high quality CPR. If you're looking for specific Resuscitation Council UK courses, please check our intranet page for the various dates and information on the application process. Also, if you're an instructor or an instructor candidate, please get in touch and you can join our faculty. So if you have made it this far through the presentation, you might have 1 or 2 questions for us. Please don't hesitate to get in touch if you have any queries. Our contact details are on the intranet page. There's a lot more information on there as well. Thank you.